Hi, ug maayong buntag, and welcome to ang Akong Tugkaran, your spot on the airwaves for us to discuss how we can make our home, Cebu, a healthier and more livable place to live in. Tugkaran is a Cebuano word for place, or better yet, home. More than anything, it is our responsibility to take care of our home and those living in it. Join us every week as we talk about some of the most pressing issues our homes face, such as health, nutrition, disaster, and local biodiversity challenges. Today is a very special episode because we are a few days away from the anniversary of Super Typhoon Odette. For millions of Filipinos, 2021 ended in a way many could never have imagined. Super Typhoon Odette ripped through the Philippines on December 16, leading to hundreds of casualties, damage of millions of households, and downing major utilities like power, water, and telecommunications. It has been a year since Super Typhoon Odette, and many families continue to pick up their lives to this day. Today, we are joined by the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, Inc. Humanitarian Disaster Preparedness and Response Program Manager, Petjohn, to talk more about their experience of responding to Super Typhoon Odette, the lessons learned from 1 year, and most importantly, how we can better prepare our homes for the next natural disaster. Everyone, let's welcome Petjohn. Hi, Sir Pet. Good morning, and thank you for joining us in today's session.
Hi, Ma'am Liz. Good morning.
Good
Thank you for
morning.
having me today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we start right away, no? So we can learn more about you and the work that you do. First off, we really want to know what RAFI is, what is the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, and what do you guys do in your team as the Humanitarian Disaster Preparedness and Response Program?
Yes, so we are the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation. This is the family foundation of the family line of Don Ramon Aboitiz, and this was established in 1966. So we have been here for the last 56 years, and our mission is to uphold the dignity of man by working with communities to their well-being. Our vision is to touching people, shaping the future, which is grounded in our core values on God-centeredness, integrity, respect, and service. So Rafi has 8 programs divided into 3 domains. We have the physical well-being, the social well-being, and the economic well-being. So the physical well-being is basically about helping achieve healthy and resilient communities. So we are able to do this by having interventions on environmental conservation and restoration, disaster risk management, which is our team, early childhood development, and on our legacy program on cancer care and advocacy. For social well-being, this is about enabling a community of leaders with a strong sense of identity, purpose, and a passion to serve. So we do this by improving education, equipping our leaders, and promoting local culture and heritage. For our economic well-being, this is about empowering entrepreneurs by providing access to economic opportunity, or basically providing them funding or loans for them to be able to move up in their level in poverty. So for our team, the Humanitarian Disaster Preparedness and Response, we belong to the physical well-being cluster, and we are basically tasked in doing disaster response activities for the foundation. So we follow the 4 thematic areas of disaster risk reduction. So you have response, rehabilitation, mitigation, and preparedness. So response is already a given. We have been doing this since the 1990s when I was still young, Ma'am Liz. So Rafi has been doing this already. And then the area of coverage is we do our response all over the country, but the response approach is different if it's in Cebu, because we are the employees
Mhm.
are will be basically very involved in the operations. But if it's outside Cebu, basically the rest of the country, we will be doing funding of our partners
Mhm.
who we will deploy to do the response for us. So
Right.
and as we go along, especially if there are large scale disasters and rehabilitation and recovery is needed, we also do that. We have done previously housing a housing program in North Cebu, no, during
Mhm.
Yolanda. And then for the third area on mitigation, this is about addressing climate change. So we are in
Yeah.
the process of identifying climate change adaptation initiatives that will allow us to contribute to the its impact, no, to the
Yeah.
Philippines, considering where we are. So the approach here is basically to partner with local government units. We are looking at the basura programs which some LGUs
Mhm.
do. They give rice or cash in exchange for the trash. So we are in the process of coordinating with different LGUs on that one. And the last thematic area, which is preparedness. This actually answers the question of what our team will do when it's
Yeah.
peacetime, when there's no disaster. So, this is also the ask of management that we shift as much as possible from response to preparedness. I hope you
Mhm.
can still hear me. It's raining
Yeah.
here where I
We can hear you. We can perfectly hear
Okay.
you.
If I may continue, our major programs here is that we are continuing the Purok system, which was
Mhm.
done before. This is basically the um forming the Puroks, no, in different LGUs in Cebu, and we are also trying to create the disaster hub for Cebu. Um, Gathering all humanitarian players here in Cebu so that we can have a coordinated response all over the province. So
Right.
those are our four thematic areas that we follow.
Wow, that's really amazing to hear. No,
That was quite a mouthful. I'm sorry.
it's perfectly fine. It's amazing to hear that the work that you do, no, and the different thematic areas that the HDPR program is focusing on. And we'd love to learn more about, no, the work that you do, particularly, you know, in preparedness. And I have a few questions later on. Um, but as you might know now that Typhoon Odette's anniversary is very near, no? Just a few weeks away. We are also very particularly interested to know more about the Typhoon Odette operations and what Rafi did. I know that Rafi has been active, no, in all of the disaster response, and during Odette, you started your emergency operations center. I read it in one of your reports, and you were also actively monitoring the typhoon. I'm curious, and I'm sure all of the listeners are also curious to know, like, what did you guys do, and how were your operations like when Typhoon Odette happened?
Yeah, thank you for asking that one. So, if I remember correctly, specific to typhoons, after Yolanda, after Super Typhoon was really the next big one that
Mm-hmm.
hit us now here in Cebu. So, if I may go back to my timeline, so around December 13, there was already noise or information on the web, on Facebook, of a storm that was quite at the category 4 that would
Mm-hmm.
hit central Philippines, and we were preparing for its impact. That's why we had events scheduled for that week that we canceled
Yeah.
as we were shifting our preparation for the typhoon. So we started informing the employees who had experience in Yolanda that they might be called into the office as we prepare for
Mm-hmm.
deployment. Come December 16, we started monitoring the track of the typhoon and its projection in terms of where it will hit. No, so the typhoon track from morning to noontime quickly changed. It was supposed to hit initially Siquijor area, going into Cebu, but it moved quite up a bit and hit
Yeah.
northern Bohol instead. And by the time that it hit Cebu, it hit the central part, which includes Cebu City and which is where our office is. So this happened around 8 to 9 p.m. and there was already very heavy damage, especially to utilities affecting power and our communication line. So unlike Yolanda, where we were not hit this time, we ourselves were included in the those that were affected by the typhoon. So the day after, since the emergency operations team were slept in the office, we immediately deployed our rapid assessment teams to the north and south of Cebu based on where the eye of the storm was and the tip also, because
Mm-hmm.
the eye and the tip of the storm had the strongest winds. The purpose there was to check the extent of damage and determine the assistance that will be needed and that needs to be given. So after that, our operations ran from December up to February. We closed
Mm-hmm.
in month end of February, and we were able to extend assistance to multiple cities and municipalities in Cebu. And we extended our response coverage to cover also southern Leyte, Negros Occidental, Negros Oriental, and Bohol, by deploying our microfinance staff
Mm-hmm.
who are also in these provinces to help with the distribution of relief. So all in, Ma'am Liz,
Mm-hmm.
we were able to provide around 156,000 relief packs to the 5 different provinces, 500,000, more than 500,000 bottles of drinking water
Mm-hmm.
to families in Cebu Island. We also lent out generator sets because
Mm-hmm.
there was no power and we need to
Right.
ensure that water was should be available. So we deployed this to water refilling stations,
Right.
around
Right.
36 of these. We also provided temporary shelter kits to 5,000 families, and we were able to provide to 4,000 people, adults, youth, children, and responders psychosocial support sessions here in Cebu. So
Mm-hmm.
basically that is what we did for Odette. Thank you.
Wow, that's really impressive. And I really like the idea that there was also psychosocial support, knowing that the after effects of experiencing such a traumatic event has a lasting effect on people, even after, months and days after such a big event. And I'm sure that a lot of Cebuanos and people from Leyte, Negros, and Bohol are quite thankful for the support that Rafi has given to all of these communities. And I'll go back to this point, no, of saying that even after the typhoon or the incident, such a traumatic incident, we still feel some of the after effects of these traumatic events. And I'm curious to know, a lot of things have happened since Typhoon Odette, and as we are approaching the 1 year anniversary of Typhoon Odette, what are we coming out of from this 1 year? What are some of the lessons learned or the experiences from this very big natural disaster that we've experienced? Like a personal lessons, or like organization or as a community, what can we learn from this experience?
Yes, for the typhoon, which was the baptism of fire for me and for some of the employees who were actually part of the emergency operations center. The first lesson learned would be that preparedness will always be key. So this means that since our program has been formalized no, as a full-time program of Rafi, what we need to do is we really need to continuously conduct simulation exercises. So practice, practice, practice for everyone to be familiar with what needs to be done. So we are in the process of creating different scenarios and then
Mm-hmm.
testing these out so that um not for people to be perfect with the responses, but it's basically more on familiarity so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they know what to do just in case something happens with the lead. Other people can back up, can assume that role, especially if it's a critical role. Second is after the typhoon, and this is ongoing until now, we have an after action review that involves action items for all the teams, the programs, and support units of Rafi, with the intent of improving, planning to improve how
Mm-hmm.
we did it the last time. So it's from the improvement perspective so that by the next time it would be easier, more seamless, and then more organized, I should say. And then
Mm-hmm.
another lesson learned, which we noted also, is that there is a need to widen the network. We should know our critical suppliers and partners, and as much as possible, expand, expand, expand. Case in
Right.
point, for water, we did not know the owner of Nature Spring. He's
Mm-hmm.
Cebu based, and since there was scarcity of water and we were doing relief assistance, we had to go through the queue of
Mm-hmm.
getting these bottles of water. So had we known him, it would have cut us a good amount of time and
Right, right.
impacted the timeliness of our response. Another one, if I may share, we had this um big mall in so big mall supplier in Bohol.
Yeah.
I will not name the mall
Mm-hmm.
where we bought our relief packs, but they wanted payment first before relief. And we are
Right.
doing humanitarian
Yeah.
relief assistance. So usually with our suppliers we have credit lines and we can just have these items delivered. But for this one the mall was strict, so we had to pay them first. So again, it might have impacted our um timelines. And then lastly, on a personal level,
Mm-hmm.
since as mentioned, no, I became head, and this was of the program, and this was baptism of fire. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that it will not always go as planned, but it will eventually work out, the response that you're doing. So there will be lapses, mistakes, errors that will be made internally. But it's still important that you keep on going and you take deep breaths along the way
Mm-hmm.
so that you can complete the objective of helping the community. So you can only grow and improve from your experiences and learning. So this is not something that you can just read from a book. So you need to be on the ground and you need to experience it multiple times as you improve and grow with the management of the emergency operation center. So those are my takeaways, Ma'am Liz, from the Odette
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Well, those are really amazing takeaways, particularly, the personal one also. That also resonated personally as well with me. That things that always go as planned, and but you keep on going. Um, I I'm curious to know more about like preparedness, like your number one point that you said, that preparedness will always be key. Um, and historically, the Philippines will always have natural disasters. Will always experience these disasters of natural either or man-made. But like you have typhoons now in Cebu, our flooding situation is also very bad. Um, so how do you translate that? How do you think you can translate that for like households or the communities? How can they better prepare kaya for disasters? What should
Um,
I do?
yeah, yeah. We mentioned always that preparedness is key. So for families and individuals, they can better prepare themselves by, number one, this is the most practical because this is where people spend most of their time on. So um
Mm-hmm.
it's Facebook. So as much as possible, you can watch um references on disaster preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow Facebook pages for disaster preparedness advocates. You can search for Doc Ted Esguerra. His name will appear in
Yeah.
Facebook
Yes. Yes.
search page, and then you can also look at the pages of the page of the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, and of course the local DRRM page of your locality, or the
Mm-hmm.
local disaster risk reduction management office of your locality, because their updates, their warnings there are actually localized, and you will be informed if they have activities at the community level that you can participate in, and these activities are actually for free. So
Yes.
you take advantage of that when you have the time. The second one, aside from the one or the online thing on Facebook, you can be an active member in your porok. If you have
Mm-hmm.
an organized porok in where you are, you can join your porok, and then the purok is usually tapped by the barangay for all barangay activities and
Mm-hmm.
affairs, right? And like us, for us in Rafi, we our program again is the purok. It's not just capacitating the purok officials. We are also into doing information education communication campaigns on the hazards at the purok level. So if you are from that purok and you will be able to join these trainings, then you are aware of the
Mm-hmm.
hazards in where you are in your locality. And then another one, there is also a web page in the country now that will inform you of the hazards in your area. So you can go to
Mm-hmm.
hazardhunter.georisk.gov.ph. If I may repeat it, hazardhunter.georisk.gov.ph, and select your locality to know your hazard. So from this reference, you can coordinate with your local DRRM or your barangay, especially if the the hazard is really the vulnerability is really very high, no, so that they can also do initiatives to mitigate or reduce the hazard. So those are my suggestions, Ma'am Liz.
Wow. These are amazing suggestions, sir. I actually have a follow-up question. I have a story for some of these things that you shared. And like the first thing that you shared about being active with your local DRRM, I can say that this is so true. And I know that sometimes people don't often rely, with their local government units, but it's very true in the sense, like, I had an experience. I think there was like a signal number 2 or number 3 sometime back in Cebu, and I live in Liloan. It's a town down north in Cebu. And the rain was pretty bad. I think we already had like an orange rainfall warning or red rainfall warning. And the advice of the local government was no more activities. You go home, you stay home, and then um you evacuate when you're told to evacuate. That evening, I think our neighbors had a party. So like there was a party, there were people partying and next door to us. Our neighbors down the road, I think somewhere. And we were like, I was very confused what was happening. Like there was already typhoon signal number 3. So I called the local DRR, and they responded. They said, no, the advice from local government was that you should stay at home. You shouldn't have any activities that would gather like people. So like I think it was like a disco party somewhere down there. And then they really came, the local government really came, the barangay came, they stopped the activities and they told people to go home because that's the advice from local government. And yeah, and I think people should really check in with their DRR, the in the local level because they're very active. And I'm quite thankful that I can get that. I have this accessibility to get this kind of information from our local government units and the DRR. And I know that
Yeah.
I know that Rafi is also training. No? You provide training with to the some of the LGUs for DRR.
Yes, we previously provided trainings to select low income LGUs or fifth class LGUs that had no funding to
Mm-hmm.
on trainings on basic life support and first aid. So we did that in 2021, families.
Wow.
Yeah, and with regarding the DRR offices, they have actually unlike before I think this is because of the pandemic. They have been more active, more
Yes.
recognized. They're like now the go to people, the go to office for anything related to disaster. So it's like they have been elevated, and their
Yes.
importance has been really noticed by the community.
Yes, I really agree. Okay. They've really been in the front line even, and I think the pandemic really, as you said, placed them in the spotlight for what
Yeah.
they're doing. And more than anything, we're very thankful to all of the officers and members and the offices of the DRRMs across the Philippines. So thank you for your service if you're listening. I also add, Sir Pat, like what you said about the puroks. I can also feel that like at home as well. At the height of the pandemic, the puroks have been instrumental in the response that local government would give to the households and communities. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying that if you can be an active member of the purok, you should be an active member of the purok because they are really the ano ba, like eyes and ears and
Yeah.
hands of the barangay to so that the government can reach you. So yeah, it's a really great innovation in terms of how government is now working at the local level. So if you can, if you're listening, you should be a member of your local purok.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think Sir Pet, I'm also curious. Do you recommend doing like having a go bag? I know that that's also something that people should have. I hear that you should have like a bag ready sa bahay that you should have at home. Is that something that you also recommend to have?
Yeah, before in Rafi, when we were still not agile, we used to have our grab bags, no?
Mm-hmm.
That contained needed items, needed supplies, if and when there is a disaster. So it's actually I was not able to mention, but thank you. Yeah, we actually promoted the need for having a go bag or grab bag for the family, so that in case a disaster strikes, rather than having to gather all these things,
Yeah,
time might not be available anymore.
right.
So if this is ready, you can just grab it and then go to the safest area. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's really having that ready, no, at home na having a bag with your essentials, no, like
Yeah.
canned goods or things that can, or like your very important documents, no, para it's easier for you just to go in times of emergencies right away, no, para as you said, you don't waste time and you can save yourselves before like the danger or the disaster hits.
Yeah. They some call it grab bag and some call it go bag. Others
Uh-huh.
call it grab and go bag. You can actually have it at a minimum. You can have your whistle is important, Ma'am Liz,
Mm.
especially if there is a there is a there's an earthquake and you get trapped.
Ah,
You
right,
use your
right.
whistle to make a sound. So rather than keeping on shouting, which might result to you inhaling hazardous toxins or smoke, right? So you can just use that whistle to call for help. So you can also bring water and the usual flashlight, radio, so that you will know available information of the best or the safest area to go. And of course, a first aid kit. And yeah, we are now, all people now are bringing their power bank, so you can include that in your grab and go bag, so that when you have the signal already, you can communicate to your relatives or to your family. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Okay, so it's having your canned goods, your non-perishables, your important documents, water, flashlight, radio, whistle, first aid, power bank. And I really like the idea of having a whistle so that, as you mentioned, in cases of when there's an earthquake, you can also easily just call for help with your whistle. So, okay, I hope everyone's taking down notes and
Yeah. In my previous life, we actually provided whistle to all employees, so that
Mhm.
wherever they, and they're required to, for it to be close to them, so that if an earthquake happens, whether they are at home or at work, if the structure collapses, they have it ready.
Wow.
We Yeah, we will inform our committee on this one and have it also implemented in Rafi.
Wow. That's great. That's actually a really great idea to have a whistle with you at all times. I'll keep note of that, and I hope the listeners as well are also taking down notes and keeping that in mind. Have a whistle ready always. Yeah, I think Sir Pat, this conversation has been great. And I know that you're quite busy, and I also don't want to keep you. More than anything, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and sharing so much of your experience, and also helping us in helping us better prepare at home in times of disaster. So again, for all of the people that are listening in, it's always very important to be prepared. Make sure that you are following very important Facebook pages, that you get the right information and insights, no, from all of these Facebook pages that provide insights on disaster risk response and mitigating these risks, and also more importantly, preparing for these things. Make sure that you follow the right pages on weather updates, so that you know in cases of impending typhoons, that you know that you are able to track these things. And also very important that you keep in touch with your local DRRM Facebook page, or you give them a call. Call your local government units and ask them what's happening. At the same time, also be an active member of your local purok. Make sure that you are engaged with them, so that they will also help you in preparing and also responding in these activities. Have your grab and go bag ready. So make sure that you have all of the essentials, your non-perishable food, your water, your flashlight, your whistle, your radio, your first aid kit, and your power banks ready, so that in times of emergencies and you need to go, you can immediately go with your grab and go bag. And then here's a very important website for you to take a look at. It's the hazardhunter.georisk.gov.ph. Make sure you check it out so that you know your the local risks in your community, so that you can also monitor and check these things out. And yeah, these are some of the great inputs and highlights that Sir Pat has shared with us today. And then again, we're very thankful that you're able to share your time with us, Sir Pat, and you're able to join us. Before we let you go, do you have any last words for our audiences who are listening in from their homes today, so that they can better prepare at home?
Yeah, to our audience, and to our listeners, no, it is very important again that you know the hazards in your location, so that you know what you need to do and where to go, especially if a disaster strikes. So as an example, if you're working and you have kids, so go to school, agree where you will meet if there is a large scale earthquake. It should be in a safe, open space away from the sea. Especially, for example, if the school is next to the sea, so you should teach your kid where to go. And if I may plug, Ma'am Liz,
Sure.
for organizations doing disaster response activities, please message us in our Rafi Facebook page. as we are very interested in partnering with you as we expand our network in all regions across the country. And in behalf of Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, thank you for having us today and good morning.
Daghang kaayong salamat, Sir Pet. And that's our episode, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us and listening in on today's conversation on how we can better care for our homes and better prepare in times of disasters. Remember to join us every Sunday at 9 a.m. for another episode of Ang Akong Tugkaran. You can also listen to today's episode on the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Inc. Spotify page, and also listen in via our Rafi Facebook page as well. Remember to leave a comment in the Facebook page and leave your comments, your suggestions, and topics that you want us to cover on our next episode. Also, very important, don't forget that we have an ongoing contest. Catch the secret word in every of the episodes and win a special prize from the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation. Today's secret word is, listen in, today's secret word is go bag. Again, it's go bag. Send in your answer along with your complete name, address, and phone number via text to 0917-1122-333. And then we'll have a very special prize for the first 5 listeners to send in their answers. Again, first 5 listeners. So send in your answer, and we're very excited to get in touch with our winners. Again, daghang kaayong salamat and maayong buntag sa tanan.